It's a people, it's a community, it's a life, it's a heart, it's a spirit.
Parents of gay children say, I want my son, my gay son, to have the same opportunity to come to me and say, hey, Dad, I'm getting married, as my non-gay son or my non-gay daughter.
The heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for?
You might just need to satisfy yourself sexually alone at that point.
Do I regret it? Not one bit. Did I think that I would actually take it the next step and do it again?
And what goes into their life, how they handle it. There are 12 houses, and each one of those houses has a particular function.
Look into yourself, think about it, and just be whoever it is that speaks to you.
Hello and welcome to Talking About. Tonight we're taking a little more of a serious turn than we do sometimes. We're discussing what I guess I titled the show Homeland Insecurity, and my two guests are going to sort of explain why we're calling it that, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you.
Jim Griffin. I'm a former lead screener at Islip MacArthur Airport in New York.
Okay, and
Camilo Macias, former screener also.
Okay. Let's start with you, Jim. How long were you working at MacArthur?
Approximately 2 years.
Okay. From the beginning of the government takeover of the screening process?
Close by, about November of 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, well, let's start with some positives that you... Start with the positive, and then we'll get into actually why you're here.
Right.
What are some of the good things that are going on there?
Well, I think the basic reason for the TSA to exist is to protect the American public from a repeat of what happened on 9/11.
Okay.
And I think there are a lot of good, dedicated people who work there.
Okay. Would you agree?
Yes, but a lot of them are gone already.
Okay. And is that by choice?
No, most of them not by choice.
Okay. Is there a for example, or am I sitting with two for examples?
Well, there's two here for examples.
Right. Well, my rights were violated. I was injured. I have 2 herniated discs in my neck. And while I was out on sick report, I was fired.
Okay.
I currently have an active case with the TSA within the agency with their Office of Civil Rights. So I didn't really come here tonight to speak about myself so much as kind of the whole structure.
Right,
and
but
what's
we need to
going on.
acknowledge it, and then we can kind of paint the whole picture.
Right.
And your
Same thing.
Same thing.
I was there since the beginning, September 2002, and I noticed the problems in January of 2004.
Okay.
I noticed a lot of problems in there, and it continued to snowball until.
Okay, and we're using some general words in problems. Specifically, when did you notice trouble beginning, or what are some of the warning signs of trouble going on within the system?
Well, to begin with, in 2002, I, along with a couple of other screeners and a supervisor, met with our Congressman, Stephen Israel.
Okay.
And we basically were successful in defeating a proposed workforce reduction of approximately 50% of the screeners that were going to be let go. They called it a workforce reduction, is what they...
Okay. And there are generally, what, about 100 or so that work there that were going to cut it to 50? Or
correct.
Was it...
Approximate.
Yeah.
And I was retaliated against after that.
Okay. But wouldn't reducing the workforce put additional stress on the people who are working there and create some holes in the net?
Yes.
Absolutely. My take on it is that New York in particular needs not only extra screeners, but New York should have the best and the newest cutting-edge technology available.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that the rest of the country shouldn't have it, but we might not need it in Idaho or Wyoming, where the Islip Airport was a 10-minute flight from Manhattan. So we need to put priorities which are not being addressed right now. Right now, the TSA is nothing more than a bloated, basically corrupt organization where the federal security directors are in charge of basically almost like a mob mentality against the screeners who speak up against improper screening procedures, report breaches of security. Screeners, when they created the TSA, their Title V rights were taken away. So in essence, what you've got is federal trained screeners, which I'm not familiar with how much it costs to train a screener, but I know it's at least $10,000, upwards to $30,000 per screener. They're taking a screener into a room, and I witnessed this, threatening the screener that if they don't resign and sign papers right then and there, that they're going to put it on their record all sorts of negative connotations. In other words, they used to call that blackballing.
Okay,
So,
and tell them what, that they'll never be able to find another job again?
exactly. Exactly. That your record's going to indicate that negative, 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 and you won't work again. Just sign the papers and resign. And that's totally contrary to even TSA policy, to the way the organization was set up, which was supposed to be progressive discipline and true managerial skills, where the people that they have as managers now are really like enforcers for the federal security director.
Okay.
And so any sort of wrongdoing, breaches of security, improper procedures are not tolerated. If you report that, you will be targeted and you will resign or be fired.
Okay, I mean, yeah, these are pretty strong allegations. In your case, or in a case that you're familiar with, how did things get to that point, or was it just instantly at that point? Is the problem that it's going from point A to point Z without the other midway points?
Well, the way the structure is in the TSA, it took a while for things to settle in, and after a year or 2 years, people in managerial positions were more concerned about being promoted, looking out for the status quo and the protected group, I call it.
Okay.
Because there is a protected group, and if you're not in the protected group, you will be not promoted. You may have false allegations brought against you, and especially if you stand up and let it be known that you will report anything to do with security procedures or, in my case, serious breaches of security, where people on the planes themselves were put in, in a lot of danger.
Right. I mean, is there, for example, that you can? Oh
yeah. Well, in the case that I was a witness to, a military person was taken through the exit lane with a full duffel bag. He was then allowed to go to the gate unscreened. He remained at the gate for approximately 20 minutes.
Unscreened?
Unscreened with the full duffel bag.
Escort?
No escort.
No escort?
No. By himself.
By himself.
The supervisor, the screening manager, then approached me, which I informed him what happened. And instead of dumping the terminal and rescreening everybody, which is what you have to do,
right,
the incident was covered up to protect the job of the supervisor who brought the military man through.
Okay.
Now,
was he brought through on any credentials?
No, that was a breach of security, because under no circumstances is a military person with a duffel bag allowed to be brought through the exit lane unscreened. That procedure doesn't exist. That bag must be screened. The individual must be screened. So the individual was left at the gate, where anything in that bag could have been handed off to anybody boarding those aircraft, which went multiple aircraft took off. The terminal was never dumped. The bomb-sniffing dogs were never brought in. Now, those people on the aircraft should have been rescreened upon arrival to whatever airports they went to. Anybody inside the sterile area should have been brought out, rescreened.
Sterile area meaning what?
Beyond the security checkpoint,
okay,
which would be the departure gates and anything beyond the security checkpoint. And the Suffolk County Police at that point come in with the K-9 units and sweep for any explosive, and those dogs are trained to pick up, any
So
kind of.
essentially, you're saying that there are several hundred people right now who are very lucky to be alive because that one person was actually an honest person, whereas if that person had not been, it would have been disastrous.
Right.
And this was all covered up.
Exactly. It was covered up. Then it was covered up by the screening manager because he didn't do his job, and so he, basically didn't tell the truth as far as the extent of what happened. And I have documents where the federal security director basically overlooked the whole thing.
Just totally let it slide.
Nothing was ever done.
Nothing was. That's amazing. And this is a regular occurrence there?
Well, hopefully not a regular occurrence. I was terminated in August of 2004. The incident I'm speaking about happened in January of 2004.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, 2 weeks after the breach occurred, I was placed on administrative leave for allegedly sleeping on post, which was not true.
Okay.
And then I challenged it. I refused to resign, and I was sent home and left to sit at home for 6 months on paid administrative leave, and then brought back in July and given a second letter of proposed termination where they changed the charges from sleeping on post to inattention at post, and they coerced another screener to lie and say that I asked him to say he witnessed the breach, which never occurred. I have witnesses on record in my case that witnessed the breach, and so that's a matter of the record.
It's just hard to fathom that this pettiness could be done at the risk of national security.
Well, that's the reason I'm here today, is because it's not, like I said before, it's not so much about me. I'm a retired New York City police officer, so thank God I'm financially secure. It's about the whole system of TSA, Homeland Security. I mean, I think everybody should know by now about the tunnels that were discovered from Mexico going into the United States.
Right.
Which were 2 football fields long.
Right.
And that's all under the Homeland Security umbrella.
It was all under the nose of the Homeland Security.
And so I'm hoping that people will, contact their representatives, and let's get the priorities. Let's get the TSA cleaned up.
Right.
Let's take the overpaid federal security directors who really aren't needed, and all the bloated managers who are making $85,000, $95,000, $100,000 a year, and put that money into new cutting-edge technology that we can set up at the airport and walk through the machine, and it will literally puff you for explosive residue from metals.
But then, but the best and the brightest deserve to be paid for their knowledge and experience as well. But apparently, from what you're telling me, the best and the brightest aren't in those positions.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
And would you agree?
I agree.
In what aspects did you witness as well?
Well, I witnessed a few breaches over the fall. They did nothing about it. They didn't clear the airport, nothing. They just let the person go right back out again and rescreen the person.
Can you go into a little bit of detail about the instances?
Well, the person walked straight through the exit lane, up the stairs.
The exit lane, how is that sort of laid out? Is that a separate area?
It's a separate area. Nobody's supposed to go in, just out.
Okay.
And the person walked straight through, up the stairs, and I said to the other person, why is that person walking through? Oh, my God. So they stopped the person while he was up the stairs and escorted him back out. He came through just regular screening, and the person was never spoken to about anything. Like, they didn't say, you're fired or whatever the case they do after that. They did nothing.
Okay.
2 times it happened in the same month, in November.
Okay.
And
this November of 05?
05. And I was a witness to that day that he was supposedly sleeping. They never asked me anything.
Okay. Is that going back to what you said about just the in-group or the certain people that they go to when they need information regarding of one way or another?
Yep. Absolutely.
But how does that play? How
Well, I know of at least 3 people involved in my case who were promoted, and coincidentally they all gave statements in my case. I know of one person that's given, the same person that's given multiple statements in different cases, which has resulted in at least 2 terminations, 1 demotion, and those are the ones I'm aware of.
The same person also asked me several questions about doing certain things.
Okay.
Certain illegal things.
Yeah, illegal things.
So he's trying to coerce you?
Trying to coerce me. All summer long. 2005. He was coercing me consistently, saying, let's do it.
Okay. Can you be specific about what he was trying to coerce you into doing?
He was trying to have me still on some steroids. He kept saying, do you know where you can get them from? You know where you can get them from? And I kept saying, no, I can't. And he kept saying, come on, give it to me. He was hounding me for like 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
From like May through August.
So this is basically trying to encourage illegal activity.
Exactly.
Where there was none. Yep.
There was none at all. He was trying to get me to get it to him so he can bring it up to the bosses. The same person that he mentioned.
And the management knows.
Management knows all. The pastor knows. They know all about him.
Is this a puppet of management, or
yes,
is this just somebody who's trying to suck up to get to the top, or a little of both, or
a little of both?
How does this affect morale of the employees there, the other transportation security officers, when there is a select few doing this stuff and the load is being carried by the others who are effectively doing their job? And I think it would be fair to say, I mean, you said that the majority of the people there are, of high caliber workers and doing their best to keep the Skyway safe.
Well, to answer the question, TSA last week requested $10 million, and the $10 million is for a study and some actions to try to reduce the attrition rate of screeners, which apparently is something like 1 in 5 screeners, and even more than that of the part-time screeners that they've hired.
So they requested this in February of '06.
Correct. And, my question is, why do you need $10 million when I could just tell you it's mismanagement, it's corruption, and as far as affecting the morale, the honest ones, the people that are honestly there trying to make a living and do a good job and protect the public, feel like, why should I bother? And each day they show up, they become less and less motivated.
And less effective.
And less effective. And that's, I was a lead screener, so I had certain people that I knew I could count on. And that was part of building up the team. And a lot of those people are gone, because they just went to either greener pastures, or psychologically they
burned out.
Were beaten down to the point where they just weren't effective anymore. And it's a shame. The American people deserve better. For the money that's being spent, we surely deserve a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could order a few of those $15,000 cheese spreads that were in the news,
right,
over a year ago.
For their award ceremony that they had in Washington. And, that's part of the Washington culture now, is just spend more money. But my concern, exactly, is look at the money that's being wasted. What about, we only have 30 minutes, but what about the cargo?
Right.
I'm not satisfied that the cargo is being properly screened.
The machines, right? ETD machines?
Well,
ETD meaning?
Explosive trace detection.
I don't want to get into too much about the technical aspects
or
the locations.
Because we don't want to run the risk of giving too much information on the technical operations side, because that creates a hole as well.
Let's put it to you this way: if you had a car that had 1 million miles on it, would you take your family and jump into that car and drive 55, 70 miles an hour on the Long Island Expressway?
Probably not.
I think not. And it's the same situation in our airports. We need to get rid of this old equipment that's sitting there now that's not properly functioning, and that's a scary thing in itself.
Is left over from pre-TSA days?
Well, not only
Summit and before Summit.
Summit being the private security company that used to
run it
operate the screening.
But with the money that's being spent, with those, with all the fat that's in the TSA at the higher levels of managers, I know in ISLIP there's at least 2 federal security directors, and they're not even in charge of ISLIP. The federal security director at LaGuardia is in charge at ISLIP.
But they have a separate do-nothing person then, essentially?
Well, I think 2 federal security directors that are making well over $100,000 a year at Islip Airport is a little bit of overkill, to say the least.
To
yes.
supervise 100 so people.
Exactly.
And operations within that.
And technically, they're not even the head federal security director now is the one at LaGuardia. So they really need to prioritize and, like I said, put some of that money into the new cutting-edge technology, get the screeners to somehow screen this cargo.
Right. So, I mean, that misspent money is not just in their salary, but is that also in their office space as well?
Well, I know at Islip, I've been in the, I call them the digs, over $300,000 a year to rent office space.
For how many people?
How many are there now?
Maybe 8.
So
8 people.
Maybe 8 to 10 people now.
And there's ample space at the airport itself that was offered to the TSA.
A lot of them were moved to LaGuardia, so
yeah,
there's not
so
many in there.
I've been gone, so that's he's more familiar with it.
Okay.
Camilo's more familiar with so 8 people. That's
maybe even less, but there's not many people in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great deal of money that could be well spent elsewhere. Camilo, in having been there more recently than Jim, and this is all still going on, is it on the decline? Is it escalating? Has anything gotten better?
Nothing's gotten better. It's getting worse as it goes on.
And how so?
They don't, like he says, they don't put the money in the right places. That machine just alarms by itself. We could be standing right there.
The detection machine that you mentioned?
We could be standing right here, and it just alarms by itself.
Without
operator? Anybody touching it. Go clean it up. They don't clean it up. Things like that. Same thing that he's been talking about. Nothing's changed. It's gotten worse, that's all. And the promotion is over there. You know how they are. Like you had mentioned. Same way.
How?
Like he had mentioned before, the protected. Those are the few people who get promoted. Or they're told, here, put in for the promotions. It's coming up soon.
Okay.
They don't let anybody else know, but they let them know first. And then they stand around and do no work, just like the rest of them do. And that's it. Same thing like happened before.
I joined up with one of the guys at LaGuardia, a fellow by the name of Bob Marquetta, started an organization. It's a union, even though they don't have collective bargaining rights, the Metropolitan Airport Workers Association. So Bob's at least trying to do something to protect the screeners' rights as far as taking the TSA to court. And
well, do you essentially, on your first day, sign away all your rights?
Well, you never had any to begin with.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to a lot of the people that went to work for the TSA, the Title V was taken out when the Patriot Act was written.
Okay.
So I think it's the responsibility of Congress and the legislature to basically clean up the mess that they created. So I think they really need to look into cleaning up the TSA, clean house, and start from scratch, and give the American people the best that money can buy and that technology can buy, and make it a place where people want to come to work and do a great job.
It's not just a place that people want to come to work. It's a place where people can feel safe to travel from. Would you fly out of MacArthur right now?
I haven't, no.
Would you?
No. I drove to Florida my last 2 trips, back and forth.
Okay, I think that kind of sums up that's really the summation of what we've been talking about. And two former transportation security officers, one of whom was a supervisor, unwilling to fly at this point because of what you've seen.
Correct.
That's scary.
That is.
If you could choose one result from this program, what would it be?
To clean house in the TSA and put new management in charge, people who are true managers.
Okay, and yourself?
Same thing. But somebody has to view this to see it and go in the airports and investigate and do whatever they can to clean house, because it's not happening.
Okay.
As of right now.
Do officials come through, or do they come through conspicuously so that they can...
Nothing.
Not even a walkthrough?
If they do, it's a tour. Hey guys, make sure everything is ready and look presentable and this and that, and that's it.
Okay.
If they come by.
TSA is not capable of investigating itself. They've proven it. It has to be an outside, either a special prosecutor,
special investigator of some sort,
an independent
undercover too,
body.
because it's They would see what goes on in there.
Just to give you an idea of the power they have up at Logan Airport, the whole congressional delegation from Massachusetts requested an investigation, and TSA basically blew them off. This was at the end of 2005. So I'd say somebody needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And that's just not happening now.
So you had mentioned, did you mention a place where people can get in contact with folks to try and bring it to their legislators, or just call your local legislator?
Just call local.
Call your representatives, Congress, and Senator, and let them know that changes need to be made, and it has to happen fast because time at this point, time is not on our side. The world is getting to be a dangerous place as we speak. I mean, I think you know about all the different geopolitical. You've got the Iranian situation,
right?
And you know,
and global politics is a totally different topic for a completely different show, but
right.
Yeah, things are potentially scary.
And so safety is really what we need to bring back.
So, and you know, looking from the inside of the airport out, you say that things are scary from the inside out, which, yeah, it's phenomenal.
Right.
It blows me away.
If it was a business, maybe it would be a different situation, but the stakes are too high.
Okay, well, I mean, we're just about out of time for this segment. I really appreciate you coming and talking about this. It takes a lot of guts to do the right thing in this kind of circumstance. I appreciate you joining me, and I appreciate you watching. Check out the show's website, www.talkingabout.info. Check us out on Google Video as well. We got some shows up there, and I will see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.